tomato lady who's going to tell us all about the history of tomatoes. And is the tomato a fruit or a vegetable? Sheila Buff, she's the author of the Great Tomato Book, and Sheila is from New York. And Sheila, welcome to WHO Radio.
Thank you, Steve.
Where did the tomato originate?
Well, it originated in the hot, dry Andean region of western South America, the part of South America now that's sort of divided among Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, thereabouts. And they were basically sort of a wild crop. The Incas, who were pretty good farmers, actually didn't cultivate the tomato. But the wild tomato made its way north into Central America, into what's now mostly Mexico, Guatemala, around there. And the Aztec Indians, indeed, did cultivate the tomato. And what they grew was something that's actually not too far different from today's cherry tomato. It would have been small, it would have liked a hot, dry climate, and it would have been a lot more orange and irregularly shaped than today's tomato. But it was small.
So why, when we think of tomatoes, do we tend to think of Italy?
Well, I think because the Italians have raised the art of tomato sauce to its acme. But the tomato was actually brought to Europe by the European explorers and settlers, and they were growing tomatoes in Italy by the 1540s.
And so now they're just a huge country in terms of production of tomatoes.
Yeah, they're pretty big, although when you look at international tomato production, the largest tomato producer, believe it or not, worldwide is China.
Wow.
And I have no idea why, and I can't figure out why. Nobody's been able to tell me, because you don't really think of tomatoes as being part of Chinese cooking.
We're talking with Sheila Buff, the author of the Great Tomato Book, on Winsenberg on the Weekend on News Radio 1040 WHO. And Sheila, I had always heard that tomatoes, at least the stems and the non-edible parts of the tomatoes, were poisonous. Is that true?
Yes, that's true. The foliage is indeed poisonous, which is what gave rise to that terrible myth that went on for such a long time that tomatoes were poisonous. The fruits, of course, are not, but the foliage is. Just as potato foliage is poisonous, although the potato tuber is delicious.
Somebody had to find that out at some point, though. I mean, somebody had to actually taste
right,
the
somebody
foliage.
had to make a little mistake
That's
there.
right.
Well, there's a famous story when the potato was first brought to England by Sir Walter Raleigh. The whole plant was given to Queen Elizabeth's cook, and the cook not unreasonably threw away the roots and cooked the foliage. And that didn't go over too well.
I bet.
But I think because the Native Americans were so familiar with the tomato that they quickly explained to the Europeans that what part you ate and what part you didn't. But when tomatoes first came to Europe, they were often grown more as a hothouse plant for their decoration than for anything edible.
I was interested in your book where you said how many different types there are and how many different colors. I personally have not seen black tomatoes. Maybe I'm just in the dark ages. But
oh, well, there's not only are there black tomatoes, there are white tomatoes, there are yellow tomatoes, pink tomatoes,
purple.
Orange and yellow striped tomatoes, purple tomatoes,
yep.
And even green tomatoes.
Orange and yellow striped tomatoes?
There's a variety called, I think, Stripey, Mr. Stripey, something like that. That's new, and I haven't grown it, so I can't.
Well, where can you get these? I mean, if people are interested in growing a different color, where would they find those?
Well, you can check with a well-stocked garden center. Some of them will carry the seeds or even seedlings of some of the more interesting plants, kind of as novelties. In fact, I know you can get a very nice heirloom cherry tomato called yellow pear, and I've seen seedlings of that at a lot of garden centers. And there's the average seed catalog from, say, Burpee, something like that, will usually carry a pretty good range of seed varieties. And there are some specialized tomato seed companies. There's one called Totally Tomatoes, which is in Augusta, Georgia.
Does the color make any difference in terms of the taste?
Not really, no. I happen to think that the black tomatoes, which are really not black, they're just an extremely dark red, have a very nice, interesting, spicy flavor. Some people feel that the white tomatoes are a little milder. To tell you the truth, I haven't really noticed that.
Would they make a difference in terms of cooking or what you would use them for?
Yeah, the last thing you want to do with a black tomato is make it into sauce. It's really gross looking.
Oh.
But,
so it may taste okay, but it just doesn't look appetizing.
Oh, it tastes fabulous. It's a great tomato for eating out of hand. But
Sheila, we have a motto at my house. I'm the cook sometimes at our house, and my motto is looks terrible, tastes great. That's my motto.
that's if you can convince your kids of that, you're in pretty good shape.
I don't think they want the black tomatoes, though.
No, they're good in a sandwich or just with some oil and vinegar on them, something like that. But stay away from the sauce on that one. On the other hand, the yellow tomatoes make a very nice sauce, I think.
So is there a difference when we go to the grocery store, just the typical supermarket, and just buy a tomato that's sitting there, and who knows how old that tomato is or where it was raised? Is there a difference between that and these specialized types of tomatoes that are grown in special places?
Well, the average supermarket tomato is something I think you should just not waste your money on, right? It's
really?
It's this sort of red cotton ball. Yeah, you don't want to eat that. They're mostly most of the fresh tomato production in North America comes from Florida if you're in the eastern half of the country, or Mexico if you're in the western half. Of course, you guys are sort of in the middle, so I don't know where yours come from. But, the varieties that they grow are designed to be handled a lot and picked mechanically. And so they've got thick walls and
tough.
thick-skinned,
right.
And they're picked when they're green. And then they're packed and they're put into trucks to be shipped to distribution points. And
scientifically,
they're ripened on the truck.
Scientifically, though, they did something, didn't they, genetically, to get these things to be able to be picked green and then ripen?
Well, these are varieties and hybrids and even some open pollinated varieties that have been bred over just decades for this. You might be thinking of the Flavor Saver tomato, which was bred to have a longer shelf life. That was never a real success, and in fact, it's not on the market anymore. But,
so where do we go if we want a great tomato? If you say don't go to the supermarket, where do we go?
If you want a great tomato, you have to either grow it yourself or support your local farmers market.
Okay, we have lots of them here in central Iowa, too.
Well, yeah, and the farmers need your help, and you should be supporting them, because that's the... you can go to a supermarket and buy a tomato that's been shipped hundreds, if not thousands, of miles, or you can go a quarter of a mile down the road and support your local farmer and get a fresh, delicious tomato that was picked that morning.
Sheila, is it a fruit or a vegetable?
It's a fruit.
Oh, no, it's not. I see it's there at the store under vegetables.
Well, it's right next to the fruit.
Your book details why it is officially a vegetable, though.
Yes. What happened was, back in 1883, there was a protectionist tariff act, and it levied a 10% duty on imported vegetables. And this was basically done to protect American farmers from competition from Caribbean growers. And what happened was, back in 1886, someone brought in a whole load of Caribbean tomatoes, and he was slapped with the duty. And he said, no, these are fruits, not vegetables. And in fact, botanically speaking, a tomato is indeed a fruit. In fact, technically, it's a berry. But the case went all the way to the Supreme Court, and in 1893, the highest court in the land said tomatoes are vegetables.
Fascinating.
Right?
So the Supreme Court has ruled that tomatoes are vegetables.
Well, because they based it on sort of the linguistic idea of what a vegetable was, as opposed to the botanist idea of what a vegetable was.
Well, it's true. You use a vegetable with your meal. It complements a salad, or you could put it on a sandwich. You don't use it as a fruit, like in a dessert or something like that.
Exactly. And although I do have a good recipe for tomato pie in the book, it's not usually made into pies or pastries or anything along those lines. So you can sort of see their point, but I think what it really meant was that the Supreme Court wanted to protect American farmers.
That's right. So now, folks, this is something they can
today.
talk about tonight around the dinner table. If you want to get a good discussion going with your friends tonight, tell them that the Supreme Court officially ruled that tomatoes are vegetables in 1893. And that's from the tomato lady, Sheila Buff. Let's get to the phone lines with our tomato quiz, and Becky's up first on WHO Radio. Hi, Becky.
Hello.
Here's your question, Becky. What's the top state for producing fresh tomatoes?
Oh, my.
Is it Florida, California, or Georgia?
I would guess Georgia.
Nope. Sorry.
Oh, darn. Thanks.
Good try. Let's give another person a chance. Bernice, you're up next on Winsenberg on the Weekend. Hi, Bernice.
Hi there.
What's the top state for producing fresh tomatoes? Florida, California, or Georgia?
Well, I've been in California, and I've seen a lot of them out there, so I would think maybe California.
Nope. Sorry, Bernice. And let's give it to Annette. Annette, have you been listening carefully?
Yes.
Okay, because here's your question. The top state for producing fresh tomatoes, Florida, California, or Georgia?
It's Florida.
It is Florida, right, Sheila?
That is absolutely correct. Total production of nearly 12 million pounds a year.
Wow. And let's go to Maury. Hi, Maury. How are you today?
Good, sir. Thank you.
All right, Maury.
Very much enjoy this discussion.
Oh, thank you very much. Maury, the biggest tomato in history was 7 pounds, 12 ounces. Where was it grown? Was it Oklahoma, Florida, or Georgia?
Well, I listened to your dialogue this morning, and I would have to say it's going to be Florida because I lived there 10 years, and that's where the most come from in the States.
That's what I would guess, too, but guess what? That's not right.
Oh.
Thanks for guessing, though, Maury. Thanks for listening to WHO Radio. The biggest tomato in history, 7 pounds, 12 ounces. Let's see who can get that one. Vicki, you want to give it a try?
Sure.
Okay, Vicki, was it Oklahoma, Florida, or Georgia?
Oklahoma?
It is.
Absolutely.
And they even have a picture of it in Sheila's book, don't they?
Yeah, well, it's about as big as the guy's head. I mean, a 7-pound tomato is a very large tomato. That is.
Sheila is sharing all sorts of fascinating facts. Her sister lives in Clive. And Sheila, you haven't been out to Iowa to visit your sister yet?
No, sadly, no.
Oh, there's just people love tomatoes out here, so I think you should come out and do a little book tour.
Well, I think that would be very worthwhile. I've got a place to stay.
Great.
See my niece and nephew. It would be
Let's go to the phone lines, give some more tomato quiz questions. With Deborah, you're up next on WHO. Hi, Deborah.
This is the sister from Clive.
Uh-oh.
Hey, sis. Hi, Sheila. How you doing?
Now you've been shamed into coming out to visit.
Well, yes. Well, you can expect us sometime in late October, probably.
Late October, okay.
Now,
And I will promise to make my tomato pie recipe.
Okay.
Is that your recipe?
That is my
That is
recipe.
her recipe.
How about the tomato soup cake? Have you had that, Deborah?
Well, Sheila and I, of course, have the same great Aunt Rose, and it's her recipe that's in there.
And what do you think? Did it taste good?
It's a really good cake.
Because, boy, it sounds strange, because there's no eggs, no milk, but you put a can of tomato soup in it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still pretty moist, you know.
Well, I'm sure it's
You
moist.
can make a richer version that, puts in a couple eggs. But the original Depression-era version sticks to just flour, sugar, some spices, and the tomato soup.
Thanks, Deborah.
All right.
And Christy, you're up next on WHO Radio. Hi, Christy.
Hi.
Let's give you the next question. An Alabama man grew the tallest tomato plant. How tall was it, Christy? Was it 14 feet tall, 28 feet tall, or 88 feet tall? What's the tallest tomato plant ever grown? 14, 28, or 88?
14 feet.
Nope. Thanks for trying, Christy. Letty, you get the last chance here with our guest Sheila Buff. Hi, Letty.
Hi.
All right, was it 14 feet tall, 28 feet tall, or 88 feet tall?
88.
No, that would almost be impossible. I had to throw that one in. I thought that was a funny one.
Yeah.
It was actually 28 feet tall, and that's pretty amazing when you think about it in itself.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, Letty, for trying. Yeah. Sheila, why don't you tell us about canning? What are some canning tips and what are concerns?
You want to use nice, fresh, unblemished tomatoes, right? And you want to make sure to wash them thoroughly. Okay, and the important thing, as always, with any sort of canning is to make sure that your water bath gets up to the right temperature and stays that way for long enough.
Can I say something about nice tomatoes? Because a lot of people would probably want some information from your book about growing tomatoes and how they grow them at their house. The thing I learned the most is the secret is in watering. You cannot let any water actually touch the tomato plant, right?
Well, it's best if you can keep the leaves dry, because
Right.
damp leaves will allow fungus diseases to take hold.
Because I heard a couple of our hosts, Sue and Jerry, were talking earlier this week on the air about bottom rot or something like that. And you're just saying be real careful to not let any of the water touch the actual plant. And so you suggest
if you can avoid that.
You suggest putting an open-ended coffee can, I think, next to the plant and watering it.
Yeah, you can do it that way. Just sink like a 1-pound coffee can, cut off both ends, and just sink it, a few inches away from the plant when you first put it in.
Okay.
If your plants are already in, it's a little late now because you'll disturb the roots.
Right. But that's how you get quality.
To make sure you're giving them enough, you can just sort of fill the can up, and then it'll slowly soak in all the way deep down to the roots,
Great.
instead of staying on the surface.
Sheila, it's been a real pleasure to have you with us today.